Another season of the NBA on ESPN is underway.
Let's go!
Curry for the record.
We have a liftoff.
Nothing like a Northeast winter. Yesterday in Boston, sunny, beautiful. Today, reality of February. A lot of changes in the air, and that's also across the NBA after a week where the NBA ruled the headlines. We have a great matinee this Sunday fun day to get you started for a new week. The Boston Celtics riding a 7-game winning streak, welcoming the Atlanta Hawks into town. And we have a preview for you for the next 30 minutes live on Twitter, Facebook, and the ESPN app. Welcome into Hoop Streams. I'm Cassidy Hubbarth alongside Monica McNutt and Brian Windhorst on this Super Bowl Sunday. And guys, while, you know, that game may be the entree of today, everyone knows the apps. The apps are what people really like in a Super Bowl party, and that's exactly what we have for you this afternoon. Hawks Celtics on ABC. A reminder, you can log on to the ESPN app and sign in to your cable provider to watch the game live there. Guys, we're going to get your Super Bowl predictions later, but let's talk about, you know, this game this afternoon. Just right off the bat, Monica, who do you like in this game?
I'm really feeling the way the Celtics have been playing lately, y'all. And I think it's not even about what they're doing offensively, although I do think they've turned a corner in terms of solidifying positions and roles outside of just Jalen and Jason, who obviously garner the headlines, but it's what they're doing defensively. I mean, they have really decided to lock up and turn the corner on that side of the basketball, 1 through 5 easily in the starters, but I also think they're getting solid production from their guys off the bench in that category. So I'm curious to see if the Celtics defense can hold versus a potentially high-powered offense in the Atlanta Hawks.
And we'll get more into the changes the Celtics made.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I just wanted to back up what Monica said with some numbers. Over the list, really, they got a 7-game win streak, Boston, but they've actually won 9 out of 10. And if you look at those 10 games, it's been arguably the best 10-game set of defense anybody in the league has played this season. They're giving up 94 points per 100 possessions over the last 10 games on defense. That's 10 points better. 10 points. That's an eon of point differential between the number 2 defense in that time. They have been awesome, and also 100% healthy. No injuries on the Boston Celtics. They've played a long. Hawks are without John Collins today, so advantage Boston all across the board.
Yeah, Boston. It has been, you know, for a lot of teams this season, but it has been a particular whirlwind with them guys in and out. They got hit hard by COVID, so they're rolling right now. We'll get more into that game, as I said, in a bit, but I think a lot of people are still decompressing after a very, very busy week. And so let's run through some of the winners and losers, guys, if you will, of the trade deadline. And so we're going to run through some of the big names. And let's start with the new Sixer here. James Harden, we're going to go with he's a winner because Harden decided Brooklyn wasn't working out for him a little over a year after he decided Houston wasn't working out for him, and made his way to Philadelphia to play alongside MVP candidate Joel Embiid. He leaves behind a big 3 made up of one player who can play half of the games and another who is injured. So our ruling is it's a win for James Harden for now. Monica, do you agree?
Yes, I do agree. Like, we're just talking about James personally or the team. Like, I don't want to go too off the rails with this.
James, let's go, James.
Okay, yes. With James, I do agree with this. And, you know, all the reporting we had on Thursday morning that he felt he wanted to leave but was concerned about perception, however true that was, I think he can be honest about his pursuit of a ring. And even though it was a little messy, the 2 guys that he originally teamed up with in Brooklyn have done similar things. Maybe not the same way, but I think in this era, with this caliber of athletes, nobody should be ashamed about chasing rings. It is what it is.
Well, you talk about that reporting.
Yeah, Cass,
Brian Windhorst was all, I got to say this first, Brian, was all
yes,
over
Brian,
this story
you were on it.
From the jump. So I'll let you finish, but I just wanted to say that. But what insight can you give us and carry on what you were going to say?
Yeah, I mean, if you watch James Harden play during that West Coast trip that the Nets had, it was a nightmare trip. And James Harden, I mean, I don't want to use the word quit because it's hard to say that, but if you watched him either play and not play, there was no question as to what was going on. And so once he had made that choice, he wanted out of Brooklyn, and we could debate that choice, but he had decided he wanted out. He really got the big win here because, number one, he gets to go compete with the Sixers in this playoff run, which I think they've got a great chance now to win the East. I still think I would favor the Bucks, but I'm waiting to see Harden and Joel Embiid play together. It could be devastating. He didn't have to wait and skip a year. Second, and this is not irrelevant, had he left the Nets as a free agent this summer, he'd have cost himself about $60 million for the right to go sign in Philly. Because he was able to force the trade through, he can get a $220 million extension this offseason, which I am expecting him to ask for. And so it's a humongous financial move as well. Definitely a winner.
I just found it just a little crazy how he was talking so much, before the season. I'm committed to Brooklyn. This is my team. I mean, Kevin Durant signing the extension, and then it just felt like he was over them. Go ahead, Monica.
Okay, Wendy, can you speak to any of the reports that came down on Friday about the rift, or should we all have been listening a little closer when James jokingly, we think, said at the podium, "Man, I'm going to give him the shot," referring to his former teammate?
Okay, I actually agree with Cass that for a time they were all on the same page and were excited. And I would even argue that Kyrie Irving and James Harden worked really hard to fit in with each other last year. They were actually great together. This year, that relationship completely deteriorated. I was with the Nets several times early in the season. While they were missing Kyrie, I think they were getting along just fine. And, the reason their record collapsed was because Harden got hurt, or because Durant got hurt.
KD.
But the reason that their
Yeah.
chemistry collapsed, the reason their chemistry collapsed was because of the rift between Harden and Kyrie. And I will say, it is remarkable, and it may in the long run be smart, but Kevin Durant has continued to be faithful to his partnership with Irving. Irving over everybody, and in this case, including Irving over Harden. That's what KD preferred, and Harden is gone.
And it is the greatest big three that never was. 16 games.
What is it, 16 games? Yeah.
Yeah, James Harden got on a plane, and Monica, as someone who frequents the Acela, doesn't he know, as Richard Jefferson pointed out, that it's just a 90-minute drive from Philly to New York? I guess that's how you bring in your guy if you're Daryl Morey.
Listen, this is a complete flex. It is not efficient. This is just because we can. Because I literally am making this trip on Tuesday, and I got a car because the train schedules. But still, it's not that long a drive. This is ridiculous.
No.
And that's a G5.
Just because
that's
exactly.
just a G5 he was on too.
It's such a flex.
That wasn't an economy private jet.
I guess he goes, so I don't have to pay those New York taxes anymore if that was one of his issues. Let's move on to Ben Simmons, who obviously was sent to the Nets in exchange for James Harden and a whole bunch else. On this other side of the trade, he just flat out refused to play for Philadelphia. We're calling him a winner because he got what he wants, guys. He sat out after the debacle last year's playoffs, the meltdown, and, he took all the fines and ultimately got what he wanted. Brian, do you feel like he came out as a winner in your mind?
He's a big winner because he could have been traded anywhere. There were teams that wanted him that may have been a good fit, but he didn't want to go. Basically, he was willing to go anywhere but Philadelphia. He ends up in New York, playing alongside two stars for a team that could win a championship. And frankly, it's kind of ideal for him because he gets to play in the big city, but he's not playing for the prime team. He's playing for the Nets, where he's not going to be the main attraction. He's not comfortable as the main attraction. This works out great. And by the way, he started to get game checks again. I know this wasn't about the money, he said, but he was being fined like $18 million already. He got a check last night when the Nets played, or the other night when the Nets played. The money is flowing again. Winner, winner.
Monica.
Okay, Wendy. I'm so glad that we get to do this hoop stream together because I have all the questions and you know the numbers. Macro, right? The way that now both of these guys, in particular Ben, though, using this mental health piece, right? And that's not for me to be the arbitrator of whether that is true or not. But when we start talking about the way that this went down this season in the macro, as far as the CBA goes and the owners and the relationships moving forward, what kind of impact do you think that this might have? Because if he just shows up with the Nets and everything is good, like, does that help the case in terms of the mental health claim? Or like I just feel like this is so messy when you think big picture.
Yeah, I do think it's something that frankly, it's already been discussed at the highest levels of the NBA. How do we handle this situation? But, in talking to people around Ben, they felt that it was something that was really holding him back. This was not a prudent or simple way to go about things, but Ben just couldn't play in Philadelphia, and they think that was indicative of him not being mentally able to do it. And the situation has changed, so his mental outlook has changed. I know that seems strange, but for some people, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, if you could say that Ben Simmons was the winner, I think there are arguments that the NBA and other GMs who were pleading with, Daryl Morey not to cave, may be losers in this situation. But time will tell with how this whole saga plays out and impacts the player empowerment, if you will, going forward in the NBA. Yeah. So let's move on to our next winner and loser, and Dame Lillard. We're going with loser, guys. Dame made the decision to be loyal.
Absolutely.
and stay in Portland. But he is in his 10th season, and the Blazers just blew everything up to try to rebuild around him. But as I said, he's in his 10th season and dealing with an abdominal injury. So how much longer can he continue to put his trust in this organization, Brian?
Boy, they better have a real plan, because the first stage here looked like a rebuild. And if you're Dame Lillard, who is in the back of his prime, that is not something you want to see. So they better have a heck of a plan to show him for coming into this summer. And frankly, they better execute that plan before they expect to offer him a contract extension. And look, he has a couple years left on his contract. There's no technically pressure, but if he doesn't sign an extension this summer, you might as well start the clock. And so I see how the Blazers are trying to get younger. They're trying to invest in the talent they have on their roster and in draft picks and clearing money off of their books. But that is not what you want to see when you're 31 years old, 32 years old. So if I were Dame, I would be really, really keeping a very close eye on what this team does this summer. And I'll tell you what, here was a possibility of him coming back this regular season. I would say, Dame, take it easy. There's no reason to come back to this team.
Yeah, I'm with you, Wendy. Like, as soon as this went down, I was like, oh, Portland's getting ready to blow this thing up. And so now you hear what their potential plan is, but I have two major questions in terms of that. One, Portland's not really a free agent destination, and whatever they're going to compile around Dame, it's not even to me about just making the Trailblazers successful. It's about competing with the West, to me, that is getting even tougher with younger teams like Memphis when Denver's fully healthy. I think Utah, I like the pickup of Nickeil Alexander-Walker. It's not even really to me about the Lakers and the Warriors. The second question, if the Portland is in on Anthony Simmons, who's terrific, was problematic last night versus the Knicks, I'm like, is his ceiling higher than potentially CJ McCollum with an older Dame? And so it just looks like another version of the same nonsense. I shouldn't call it nonsense, but same, not quite good enough.
Right.
Yeah, if they were this big of a believer in Anthony Simons, maybe they should have traded him.
Yes.
Traded him earlier.
There you go. Bottom line, Chauncey Billups has a lot on his plate as a first-year head coach. Let's move on to the Kangs. In particular, Kings fans, and sorry guys, we're gonna go with losers. The Kings made the shocking decision to trade, surprise, surprise, young star Tyrese Haliburton to Indiana. In the short term, they might get a boost from Domantas Sabonis, but did you guys see, like, these Kings fans, welcome to hell, Domas. Like, they've gone through a lot. They've been through it. Monica, do you feel like, they've just been through enough at this point?
Okay, so Wendy, you might kill me, but I actually did not hate everything about this move. I think macro, I get it. Haliburton has a ceiling, but there's a reason that guys are available to trade as assets. Like, I don't know if anybody was necessarily interested in the rest of that roster, but Domantas Sabonis is a double-double guy. He's a hard worker. He's super gritty. I think a healthy Holiday in this deal, I know he's dealing with some injuries, is a little bit underrated. And I think it should mean something to the Kings if they can get into the playoffs/play-in as an organization that's been in purgatory for so long. So I wasn't like as blown away by this. I understand that they loved Haliburton, but I could see the strategy a little bit.
I liked what the Kings did. I disagree with this. They didn't let us vote on this, Monica, on losers. I talked to all of my friends in the league, and they disagree with me. They say, no, Halliburton's going to be a stud. He's 21 years old. And I'm like, but they traded for a 25-year-old two-time All-Star in Domantas Sabonis?
Yeah.
Who's under contract, a reasonable contract for 2 years, and they can extend him this summer. I think they're going to try to do so. And it balances out their roster better because they were sort of heavy on the perimeter and light on the interior. And like, I know it's just been a few days, but I hate to point out, but they're 2-0 since they made the trade. Sabonis has played great in both games. He sniffed a triple-double last night. De'Aaron Fox seems reinvigorated. I mean, it's not so much of a referendum on Haliburton as much as it is that Sabonis can help the Kings. Plus, they also got Dante DiVincenzo. Remember, a year or so ago, they traded Bogdan Bogdanovic for DiVincenzo. That trade got voided by the NBA for tampering, and now they bought him a lot cheaper, a defensive wing player. It's what everybody wants. I mean, I'm not giving them an A+, but I thought they had a decent deadline. I'm okay with it.
Let's go,
okay,
Wendy.
You guys are
crazy.
Let's go. You're going winner? Question mark. And I mean, look, if you look at that picture of De'Aaron Fox hugging Domantas Sabonis like Steve Nash did KD in the playoffs, then I think he would say they were winners too. So, good. Let's give some positivity to the Kings. They need it, to be honest.
There we go.
Okay, but I think maybe you guys would agree with this one. Lakers, losers. It's no secret that the Lakers, they've been struggling lately, but they failed to take any action before the trade deadline. Rob Pelinka said that he was aligned with LeBron and AD to not make any moves. Well, our Dave McMenamin reporting that is, quote, totally false. Brian, in your estimate, how bad are things in LA right now?
Well, they've had a team that they thought could compete for a championship that now is going to have to fight for the play-in. They had a brutally tough loss Saturday night to the Warriors, but they're 5 games under 500 right now, and their chances of improving are going to have to be just organically, which I guess, I mean, really, I think at the end of the day, this was ownership and the front office saying, they're kind of raising the white flag and saying, I don't think we can fix this team. And for a LeBron James at age 37, who's playing great first-team All-NBA level season, to watch the white flag go up the pole, that is not what he came to Los Angeles for. And so how can you call anything about this season a win for the Lakers?
Retweet. I'm so tired of talking about this. They stink, and we all just have to watch it.
Let's move on. Let's move on then, because it wasn't just a good. Let's move on to something maybe just a little more entertaining than the Lakers. What do you guys think?
You had some swag, so I just thought it was a good picture.
Pat Bev trick y'all, man. Like, he playing defense. So he don't guard nobody, man. Just running around.
I'm going to need some size for sure.
Oh, man, was it a good week to be petty, y'all. The petty war was in full effect. So you saw some, but let's recap, starting with Patrick Beverley, who waited 2 years to get back at Russ for this comment, guys.
That Bev trick y'all, man. Like, you play defense. You don't guard nobody, man. Just running around, doing nothing.
And so, of course, Patrick Beverley in 2022 said, I remember when somebody said all I do is run around and trick y'all. Well, my boy is the real magician this year. Monica, reaction.
Yo, I was like, wait a minute. Because this tweet, didn't this go out the same day as the trade deadline? So I was like, wait, where? Yes. And then I was like, oh, this was back at Russ. Because at first I wasn't sure where it was going. I mean, it's just been kind of Russ's season to be piled on. And I am not mad at Patrick Beverley for this observation and the fit with this particular squad.
Man, I got to say, here's the thing, though. Russ isn't actually tricking anybody. I mean, that's the thing about it, at least Beverley may be more successful as the magician.
I mean, he did recently say that he sat out with the back injury, and he attributed it to sitting down for long stretches. So there's a trick, if you will. Well, I'll move on.
It was amazing.
Speaking of having to dig in the archives for memes, how about Troel Embiid blessed the internet with this photo, which, of course, is a reference to a 2015 meme. They had memes back in 2015 about showing up to your biggest hater's funeral, for those who didn't get it. But Embiid said he just liked the outfit. Take a listen.
How long did you have that tweet ready?
Honestly, I don't even know what the tweet was about. I just tweeted, random person. Not out there.
Very ready. Very ready.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw the picture on the internet. I thought he was well dressed. He had a nice suit on. Good looking. So he had some swag. So I just thought it was a good picture.
Monica, anyone do it better? Does anyone do it better?
No. I was rolling when he put this tweet out. Of course, as soon as the trade went down, I went to his timeline. It took a minute for this to develop, but nailed it. Perfect. 10 out of 10.
I don't know what was better, the press conference or the tweet, because that back and forth in the press conference had my eyes watering.
Incredible. But I got to say, last but not least, how about the impeccable shade from Kevin Durant during the All-Star draft, hours after James Harden forced his way out of Brooklyn? Just watch.
I'm gonna need some size and some defense in the interior.
Yeah.
Especially with Giannis and LeBron James playing such great basketball this year. I need somebody to offset that, so I'm gonna go with Rudy Gobert.
I agree. That worked out nicely.
I mean, it is the deadpan for me. Look, I will say this. We have 3 nominees. My vote is Kevin Durant, because that deserved all of the awards, that segment.
Yeah, that and the back and forth with the TNT guys, and when Shaq goes, yeah, this is chess, not checkers. I mean, the back and forth that those guys were saying, backing him up, it was the best.
I actually think the award goes to LeBron. I don't know if he did that on his own or was put up to creating this theater. Because by the end of it, when KD finally smiles, because I was like, oh God, he's not feeling this.
Yes, and he knew that James Harden wasn't really hurt when he asked, so what happens if he can't, play? It was a perfect tee-up. Knocked it out of the park. So anyway, that All-Star game is going to be amazing. Something to look forward to. Obviously, another thing to look forward to, the Super Bowl. It's coming up tonight. The Rams will be hosting the Bengals this evening. So it got us thinking, who would win in an Ohio versus LA NBA matchup? Okay, so let me just break this down for you. Let's start with Ohio. LeBron James, Steph Curry, CJ McCollum, Karis LeVert, Gary Trent Jr., Terry Rozier, Larry Nance. Like, this is, these are all people who, grew up or were born in Ohio. Obviously, we know Steph and LeBron were born in the same hospital. So that's the starting five. Some of those guys you can pick from the Ohio team. Let's now look at the lineup for the LA team. James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Klay Thompson, DeMar DeRozan, Russell Westbrook, Paul George, Kevin Love, Lonzo and LaMelo, and the Holiday brothers. There's a lot of choices there. But, you got LeBron and Steph at the top of the Ohio team versus a deep LA team. Monica, who are you going with in Ohio versus LA matchups?
Oh, man. I'm going with the LA team on this one in terms of depth. That's a lot of firepower there.
Brian?
All right. Well, being from Akron, Ohio, now, first, any good lawyer at the beginning is going to put objections. I object to Kevin Love being on the list. He is really from Oregon. He wears 0 for Oregon. I move that he is thrown off the team. That's number one. Number two, of course I'm riding with Ohio. Of course I'm riding with Ohio. Absolutely. By the way, I'm riding LeBron and Steph versus Harden right now. Monica, you can take Harden. Go ahead and take him last. I'm going to go ahead and let you draft him.
All right. It's not right now, Wendy. It's like the idea of all these guys healthy. But go ahead. Go off Akron, Ohio.
Now.
I think I'm going with Ohio, too, because we're talking about the starting five.
Darn right.
You give me Steph and LeBron.
Thank you.
That's, where it begins and ends.
Thank you.
That's all I'm saying. I'm going to.
I don't know about that, guys.
Okay, maybe I think we're going to have a debate about this because, I'm looking forward to the Super Bowl, obviously, but I'm really looking forward to the halftime show. Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, Kendrick Lamar take the stage. Monica, who are you most excited to see?
I cannot wait to see Kendrick / Mary J. But I actually got to see Kendrick at Coachella the year Beyonce was supposed to go, but she got pregnant, but I digress.
Fancy.
Anyway, he's a fantastic performer, and his albums, kind of the last two in particular, they were just great, like anthem tracks with my friends and families, and I'm all about where music takes me, like the memories it brings up.
A lot of memories with these artists.
I was in my prime in the 90s. Guys, okay?
See?
That
memories?
Means that means that my iPhone has a bunch of Eminem, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Mary J. Blige on it.
Okay.
This is the most excited I've been for a Super Bowl halftime performance since Tom Petty. I'm just real talk from this guy over here.
Wow.
Okay, I'm for it. So is that okay? Let me file this. Let me just go quickly as we are winding down. I got to get your Super Bowl predictions. So we know the halftime performance are going to be fire, but who are you picking for the game tonight?
I'm going heart over
I'm from
head.
Ohio.
Go Joe Burrow. Oh yeah, we agree, Wendy. We agree.
I'm from Ohio.
Wait, all three of us
Ohio.
are going with the underdog. We're going with the Bengals.
I'm
all about Joey Burrow. I'm about it. Okay, great. All right, as we count down, we've got about 2 minutes to go before things get going out in Boston. So let's get to the main attraction. And guys, I want to talk about specifically just the Celtics, just this hot streak they got going on. And Jaylen Brown, he tweeted that the energy is about to shift, and they haven't lost since he tweeted that. Like, how have they been able to up their level, Brian, in over these last 7 games?
Well, earlier in this season, they just couldn't score enough to win games. And there were so many nights where they were just terrible from three-point range. They'd, set some records, and Tatum was like going weeks on end without hitting a three. And so basically what they've done is they've improved offensively a little. And the trade that they just made to pick up Derek White from the Spurs will help them even a little more. But they were like, look, if we keep getting beat because we can't outscore the opponent, we're just going to win on defense. And that's what they've done. And that's what I expect them to do today. This is a great offensive team coming in there. I think their defense wins.
Monica,
when teams go on runs.
Yep, go ahead.
No, you go.
I just wanted to quickly talk about the Hawks because they were the surprise team, obviously, of the playoffs last year. And I think some people are surprised that they're sitting in the 10th spot. How do you sum up just what they've done this year and where they're at?
the big thing is the secret was out on the Hawks, and they've also had injuries. But, I mean, while injuries are legit, teams across the league have dealt with injuries and COVID or whatever. But I think the big thing is that the secret has been out on the Hawks. And I think last year, I don't think it was a flash in the pan. I think this team will improve by the time we get to the playoffs. But last year, they really reveled in matchups. And if you remember, in the playoffs, they got Bogdan back, which I think was a boon that people hadn't accounted for in the regular season with them last year. And so that even took them to another level in the playoffs. This year, I just think the big thing has been the secret is out. And at points, quite honestly, they have not looked focused, I'll say.
Well, they have beaten the Celtics 2 times since they played them this year. It was actually the last time the Celtics lost 7 games ago. So that's about to tip off on ABC right now. You can also watch it on the ESPN app if you log into your cable providers. Now, this was fun, guys. Enjoy NBA and then the Super Bowl. And Hoop Streams returns on Wednesday night. Enjoy, guys. See ya.
See you guys.